Hello, early arrivers. I've got a special surprise for you today.
Wow, what is it? What is it?
There is no Stugotz, but Greg Cote of the Miami Herald has parachuted in and is ready. He's got so many opinions. He bounced off Mike Ryan arriving in here. He's like, I've got opinions on the tournament. You've slandered the tournament.
I've got a lot of opinions. It's also the first time I've parachuted, which is really a thrilling experience. The thing that struck me is that the landing is harder than you think. It always seems like a soft landing where you do the little trot after the chute comes down, and it's hard, man. It jarred my knee. I have old-ass knees. But here I am.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Dress too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the.
Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I really do enjoy the way that the money is pouring into what used to be amateur sports and NIL and the chaos that it is causing. Over the weekend, Jack Golke, I think we all discovered him at the same time, plays for Oakland, comes in off the bench, does nothing but shoot. He makes 10 threes on 3 dribbles. And in the sport, in WNBA, NBA, college basketball, in the last 25 years, according to OptaStats, there are only 2 times that someone has come off the bench and shot 20-plus threes and no twos in a game. Both times it's Jack Golke. And TurboTax decided to capitalize on this so immediately because they were afraid that Golke would immediately get eliminated, which he did.
Yeah.
That they did they just did an NIL deal with him. Golke spent the weekend just signing NIL deals. But this right here is absurdly funny. He can't even be bothered to have the time to get to the gym. He's clearly in a hotel ballroom. I'm going to guess Radisson Inn carpet. 1980s was the last time it was changed. And here we go. Jack Golke just doing a commercial for TurboTax.
Me and my team got to the next round by making all our moves count, just like TurboTax, who makes all your off-court moves count this tax season.
I mean, come on. Come on. That's right, Billy. That's the correct response.
Well, he hit the ceiling.
Dribbling on carpet.
He's in a hotel ballroom. He's dribbling on carpet. Yet you at least got to give TurboTax their money's worth by going to a gym.
Have there been advances in anything less than in carpet? Like, what was the last carpet advance?
I'm going to guess easier to clean. I know there are very expensive kinds of rugs. So
but look, they've taped down, like, if you look, they taped down a 3-point line on the carpet. Look, there's a white tape 3-point line on that video.
Now that's production value.
That he's running around to shoot. Look, watch him. And there's actually a white court also. Look, they made a court out of tape on that carpet.
Looks like he's in a gym.
Yeah.
It does not look like he's in a gym. Mike Ryan found all of the basketball middling. He called it March Midness. I will say that the NCAA tournament has never been about good basketball. It's just about, hey, please give me some close basketball. Because maybe when you're going back to the time of Tim Duncan and someone like Tim Duncan will play for 4 years. But now the basketball, what you're watching is basically being able to bet. You saw the numbers. I've told you before that I don't trust the ratings on anything, but the numbers being distributed suggest that more people watch the average game in the first round than ever have. 8.3 million per game. 8.3 million is what the numbers are that they're giving you, and it's just because it's action.
It's a good year to have the take that March Madness isn't exactly what people hype it up to be, because March, as you mentioned, it's about moments. And there haven't really been moments. You had a crazy 3 to end regulation last night. You basically had good games to start the experience on your Friday and one solid one to end your experience, but a whole lot of bad basketball and not a lot of memorable results. It is just the 5th time in history that all 1 and 2 seeds have advanced to the Sweet 16, so you haven't had real signature upsets. The darling Cinderellas are pretty much gone by now, so it hasn't been a great tournament by any real stretch of the imagination.
I think it's been a return to the norm. I mean, last year you had 3 outliers in the men's Final Four, and that's not – you can't count on that happening. And now – for me, the NCAA tournament is something I really pay attention to now when it's at the Sweet 16. And there are no real Cinderellas left, unless you count NC State as an 11 seed. And on the women's side, there's no real Cinderella. That's the Cinderella fallacy, I call it. We love Cinderella.
You do?
We love Cinderella.
You have a name for it.
Yeah, and you got to capitalize the F as well. The Cinderella fallacy is that's why we all love March Madness so much. We're enthralled with the brackets because when Oakland beats Kentucky, oh my God, we're apoplectic with joy, knowing that Oakland's going to lose in the next game and that Jack Golke, who looks like he's 38 years old, is going to disappear after cashing on NIL, and we'll never hear from him again. He's not going to
disappear. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to know where I was when I saw this commercial for Jack Golke in a ballroom. What hotel do you imagine that is? Because
Radisson.
The carpet is giving off something, right? That carpet, burgundy. It doesn't feel like a new design. It feels like a carpet that has been there for at least 2 decades.
Yeah, it smells, that carpet.
I don't know if it smells.
Yeah. I can smell it through the TV. It's bad. It's been there since the 1960s, that carpet. And that design, what is that, a paisley design? I don't know what I'm looking at there. Is that a flame? What is that we're seeing? It's crazy.
I do miss March Madness creating stars. Jack Golke, there's usually like 2 or 3 of Jack Golke, and this year, at least on the men's side, there isn't. On the women's side of the bracket, there are names establishing themselves like Audie Crooks and whatnot, but that's because generally the audience is less familiar with them. But it's been pretty chalky on both brackets, both the men's and women's, and it's been disappointing.
I feel like your enthusiasm, Mike, would be a little different if there was a certain blue blood team in the tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. But they were also upsetting teams. You know, they were a lower seed last year, both the men's and women's, and they upset top seeds on their way to March, on their way to the Final Four, and that's what March is supposed to be about, at least to me. Otherwise, you just get a bunch of boring games, and even if you follow the sport, which I follow the sport a little bit more now because, as you mentioned, I'm a blue blood, it bucks against the trends that you'd been hearing all year. For example, the last 3 years, we've been hearing how the ACC, noted famous basketball conference, is actually overrated and doesn't stack up with the better conferences, the Big Ten in particular. Right now, presently, in the Sweet 16, there are more ACC schools than the Big Ten has had in the Sweet 16 in the last 3 years combined. The ACC continually bucks against this narrative nationally that they're an overrated conference, and they always have Final Four representation.
Taylor says you're walking dangerously close to the line that gets your blue blood card revoked.
I have in front of me a news story that if it had been played in the tournament, people would care. Unfortunately, it involves the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. But the way that one of their games ended over the weekend, Dellavedova turned the ball over in Australia at the end, and then Jack McVeigh came down the court and shot just over half court, made a three-pointer to win the game. If that had happened in the NCAA tournament, that ending, it's one of those things that we would remember forever. Like one of those games that you remember where it is that you were because you can't believe that you saw something. And we all look like Stan Van Gundy during that game last year when he's on the sidelines and he's disoriented. But unfortunately, it involved Tasmania. But if it had been in the tournament and it had been if Tasmania had advanced on a half-court three toward the buzzer, we'd be talking about it. But those games this weekend weren't any good. And Zack Edey doesn't have any actual enemies. So Purdue has made one of me for calling him a plague. Purdue fans are very mad at me because their offense was very good, at least in part because he gets a lot of free throws because no one can get him out of the key. And there is a place, by the way, that you can accuse me of hypocrisy. Because my friends were arguing with me this week, and they're like, why don't you like him? If someone is bigger and faster than other people, you have no problems with them. But just because someone is bigger than everyone else, you have a problem with them? And I'm like, yeah, that's the reason. I don't like that what he's doing in basketball is something that feels like no one can move him out of the key. He's too physically strong.
Right, he didn't cheat though to get like that.
Correct, but I just don't like watching it. But
it feels like cheating sometimes, but no, he didn't cheat. And yeah, their head coach actually said something that I thought was a general criticism that you were lumped into, that if you think that he's good just because he's big, you don't know ball.
Oh, but I don't think that. I know he's good. And it's not just because he's big. He's got a skill set, but the fact that he's stronger than everybody is the reason that he's able to get where he wants in the key, and they have to foul him. But the hypocrisy that I'm guilty of is that I enjoyed watching this weekend Audi Crooks of Iowa State, even though she's stronger than everybody physically. But I love the heavier basketball player. I've always loved the heavy basketball player. And the hypocrisy that you've caught me in is I'd be totally fine with Zack Edey if he was 150 more pounds and flabby.
Yeah.
If it was more body fat, I would love him.
Yeah.
Like it has nothing to do with the fact that he's stronger than everybody.
It's everything to do with that he's proportional.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If he were 150 pounds heavier, I would be rooting for him, and if he was like Big Baby Robinson but 7'5".
Big Baby Davis?
Big Baby Davis, excuse me.
We all love the large, out-of-shape athlete. We love the defensive tackle returning a fumble. Same theory there.
Yeah, this has been a good year to have the take that March Madness is overrated. That take stands up against like more memorable March Madnesses where you do have those moments. I think that you go through a lot, you sift through it, as we made the minor analogy last week, and you get a couple of good nuggets. This year, my take is really aging well just because there hasn't been that. We're all just still trying to chase the ghost of Jack Golke.
All right, but can you guys help me with this part? Because I do feel part of this is simply packaging and nostalgia. This is minor league basketball. These are human beings who are learning how to play basketball. Some of them are very young and they're going to school for 1 year to learn how to play basketball. I'm not interested in the G League either, but if you make it in March, give me giant stakes and tell me at every turn that everybody's going to be watching and we can bet all day and everyone's going to be caring, I might be more interested. Let's go ahead and play that video from Australia so you could see what it is that I'm talking about. This is Matthew Dellavedova inbounding the ball, and he throws it away, and here we go. We're going down the court. Imagine this at the end of March Madness and at the end of one of the games.
Nice.
Totally absurd from half court, making a game winner from half court. I believe what you're watching is minor league basketball. And we care about it just because we put stakes on it. I shouldn't say just. You put regional identity on it, too. I saw Jim Nance in the crowd yesterday.
Those are pros. If you stack that Australian team with Dellavedova in there, I'd imagine they'd perform admirably against the NCAA lot.
Yes, they would. Agreed. The point that I was simply making is that much of it is a made-for-television contrivance, that we care about it because we're grandfathering it in from another time, but it's something that's always fascinating to me. We care deeply about minor league sports in this country. We care deeply about the regional identity that we get from our town being shown nationally, and I can puff out my regional pride. I was disoriented by seeing Jim Nance enjoy Houston basketball.
Yeah.
In the crowd, Jim Nance I always think of as either neutral or whispering. Jim Nance, even on football, doesn't convey excitement. His voice is always steady. To see him emotional watching Houston basketball, scared because he knows not to trust Houston basketball.
Yeah, what does he look like excited? I picture him just giving a nice little golf clap at even the most outrageously exciting play.
That's not what was happening. He was careening all over the place, doing interviews. He couldn't stop talking about his beloved Houston Cougars.
You know, when legendary coaches step down, they have the decency to stay away from the program for a little bit for the replacement coach because you don't want that discomfort around. Then you wait a little bit, or you can be like Roy Williams, which is all, look at me, I'm at every game. Yeah. But I'm sure Ian Eagle can't possibly appreciate Jim Nance breathing over his neck.
Not at all.
You know, let us miss you, Jim.
Exactly.
Wow, that is not the take I had a lot of people having yesterday.
No, that's a surprising one. It's sort of like Mike Ryan stepping down as executive producer and still looking right over Christopher's shoulder. You know, not that that's appropriate for me to say.
You're closer than Jim Nance was to Ian Eagle. You're right on time. Like he can smell and feel your breath on his neck. That's how close you are to where Chris Cote is.
Greg, I do believe you got my ass. I do believe you got my ass.
Good point by you, though.
No, it's
Very
great.
valid.
I'm going to go get water. Walk that one off.
Does it make you question if Nance has always had this bias? Maybe he wasn't so impartial. I feel like maybe now we go through, the tapes and we see what was going on in those Houston games with Nance. You know what I mean?
I spent a few seconds disoriented at the vision once I saw him cheering because it was legitimately confusing to me to see. I expected – it's not just confusing to me because of what he is on broadcasts for many, many years, even exciting broadcasts, dramatic ends to the Masters. I think of him as somewhat stoic, not repressed. But seeing him in that context was – something that took me a second to adjust to because I think of Jim Nance as somebody who's wearing dock shoes, golf clothes, and emotions are not something that's spilled from him. That he is a person who can be trusted to simply no. What are you shaking your head about?
I feel
Billy?
like Jimmy can let it loose. You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
He's
obviously
skinny
wrong.
dipped for sure.
Not dock shoes.
What?
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Has Jim Nance skinny dipped for sure? And can Jim Nance really let it loose? At Le Batard Show.
Raftery definitely has.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
Plenty of onions, yeah.
Vern Lundquist loves a nude hot tub.
Oh, I bet.
For sure.
I think he likes a sauna.
Turkish bath.
Yeah.
Without the towel.
Like him and the boys go to the lodge. You know what I mean?
You know
Just
what?
let loose. Take off the towel. Can I see your wiener? Who cares?
Vern is 100% a Turkish bathhouse guy.
No.
lodge.
This is no.
He's a moose.
Oh, we
for
disagree
sure,
on
right?
this?
I'm vehement disagreement, and I put Vern in the hot tub for a reason. It's because he's not laying nude on his stomach and letting someone hit him in the back with leaves, with palm fronds. He is not letting anybody do that.
No. Yeah, I see the opposite side of the coin. I think he is that guy.
No.
The back's not a great angle for Vern.
I think Nance would be more likely to be a Turkish bath guy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I have
think
Nance
it's
never taking off his suit.
Who at CBS?
He's in the sauna. You know what? Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is Jim Nance in the sauna in a suit?
It's almost like a tougher game is who at CBS isn't a Turkish bathhouse guy.
Right.
I'm going through the broadcasters right now, and I'm trying to think, what is Ian Eagle like?
He's a Turkish bathhouse guy. I don't think I can find one that isn't.
Kevin Holland.
Oh, Turkish bathhouse guy.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Gus Johnson, have you ever been in a Turkish bathhouse at Le Batard Show? Yes or no?
Was that to Gus Johnson or that's to the public?
I'm asking.
The way you phrased that was Gus
Fox,
Johnson. Have
he's
you ever
a Fox
been to
guy.
Turkish bathhouse?
Yeah, they let loose differently over there.
Do they?
Yeah. But at CBS, they've had long-standing grandfathered memberships back when, CBS first started. One specific bathhouse. Really? It kind of feels a little cultish.
Wow. The Turkish bathhouse, you got to be careful.
It does have like a secret society aspect.
You got
to
to be careful with them because you got to make sure they're clean and well taken care of. Otherwise,
because it's just very moist.
Yes, very mildewy. Yeah. You got to be careful with all that stuff.
Yeah. Bill Cower, definitely got a towel on, but not for long. You know what I'm saying?
Turkish bathhouse guy.
Yeah, there's one in the beach. Russian and Turkish baths.
I don't doubt it.
Sparrow Adidas.
I've been to that one.
Have you?
And it's why I say what it is that I just said. You got to be careful with
How
that.
is it?
Some experience, huh?
Oh, Brad Nessler.
All people of influence.
Brad Nessler.
All people of influence, Billy, they have a membership to one of these bathhouse places. Yeah, for sure.
How does it work, Dan, when you go? Or do you go discreetly? You have like a plug there?
I only went once. And again, the reason that I have the experience to tell you that you have to be careful is because when Greg Cote mentioned scents, you're talking about things that for many years have been in damp areas near the beach, and you have to take care of those things vigorously or they will start to smell and they will be dirty, and you don't want to be walking around on a tile floor that isn't exactly as clean.
This is where the Illuminati gave you highly questionable, yes?
Did you get sprayed with a fire hose? I'm looking at pictures of their services, and there's just a dude spraying someone with a fire hose.
I got the palm fronds on the back. And I did not like it.
Were they slapping you?
Yes. No, snap. Yeah. No, they snap you.
Wow.
They hit you.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to get blood flow going and lactic acid going, and it's meant to.
Did it work?
It's not supposed to be.
This is where you secured the Beto O'Rourke South Beach session. Yes.
Yeah. Me and him just wearing.
This is where they
towels.
told you you're going to interview Beto.
Who do you think was hitting him with the palm fronds?
It was Kevin Hart, actually.
Okay.
That was Kevin Hart. Gotcha. Was the interview that I secured with the Illuminati at the Turkish bathhouse. You mentioned Fox, and it made me immediately think of Kim Mulkey. Can we play the sound, please, of Kim Mulkey? And I just cannot wait for whatever it is this Washington Post report is, because among other things, she's complaining that the reporter who's been trying to reach her for 2 years to do this didn't give her enough time to respond. 2 years has been trying to get an interview with Mulkey. And Mulkey, Brittany Griner said, among other things, that Mulkey, tried to get her to repress her sexuality publicly. And Kim Mulkey seems pretty terrible. And the reason, she's in big trouble here isn't the voice. It's because she didn't wear one of those ridiculous outfits this time to this press conference where she's got a 2-minute response to a Washington Post story that she's alerting us all to, doing great publicity for the Washington Post because we all want to see what this story is going to say.
This reporter has been working on a story about me for 2 years. After 2 years of trying to get me to sit with him for an interview, he contacts LSU on Tuesday as we were getting ready for the first round game of this tournament with more than a dozen questions, demanding a response by Thursday, right before we're scheduled to tip off. Are you kidding me? This was a ridiculous deadline that LSU and I could not possibly meet, and the reporter knew it. It was just an attempt to prevent me from commenting and an attempt to distract us from this tournament. It ain't gonna work, buddy. Unfortunately, this is part of a pattern that goes back years. I told this reporter 2 years ago that I didn't appreciate the hit job he wrote on Brian Kelly, and that's why I wasn't going to do an interview with him. After that, the reporter called 2 former college coaches of mine and left multiple messages that he was with me in Baton Rouge to get them to call him back, trying to trick these coaches into believing that I was working with the Washington Post on a story. But you see, reporters who give a megaphone to a one-sided, embellished version of things aren't trying to tell the truth. They're trying to sell newspapers and feed the click machine. This is exactly why people don't trust journalists and the media anymore. It's these kinds of sleazy tactics and hatchet jobs that people are just tired of. I'm fed up. I've hired the best defamation law firm in the country, and I will sue the Washington Post if they publish a false story about me.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Does Kim Mulkey sound like Marlboro Reds? The click machine, what does that look like? The click machine.
I know it very well.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, it's amorphous. You know, it's more of an invisible dinosaur that's out there and gnarling and growling and threatening. But that woman is terrified of the truth. Oh. She is terrified of what he's about to write because she knows it's going to be truthful.
Does she have a sister?
It ain't going to work, buddy.
Oh. Can I ask you guys a question about journalism?
Let BBC shoot a shot.
When you're working on a story for 2 years, are you doing anything else? Because that seems like a racket.
Yeah, it is.
Like, oh, you got that Mulkey thing? Nah, a little more time, boss. It's been 2 years dragging this out on salary.
Really? I'm aiming
putting
for
nothing out.
2026 is my target date.
Chris Cote, give me the stat of the day music, please.
Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day.
This is from College Sports Only. North Carolina's starting five. The average age is 22 years and 2 months. The Oklahoma City Thunder that can very much win the championship this year. Their starting five, the average age is 22 years and 6 months. That's crazy. And if you've seen those guys interviewed when Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander get together after games, they're children. Like, they behave like children in the interviews. And one of the things that's happening in the NBA that's so interesting is Minnesota goes to the LA Clippers, win by 18, and the young guys on the bench are like making fun of the old guys, saying, look at their old asses. They're old. And I know that many people in Miami are very frustrated by the Miami Heat being only 39 and 32. But these things are hard to keep up there. They have the same record as the Lakers. They have a better record than the Warriors. Now, I know the Lakers and the Warriors are considered disappointments, but it's hard to stay on top. But Oklahoma City, if Holmgren, that body type scares me because I always think it's going to get hurt. But if they stay healthy, that team's only going to keep getting better because that's not a team that has yet reached its athletic prime.
Where have we heard that before? Oh, yeah, Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's correct. But they've got a chance with these young players this year. Like, people are going to discover that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all the metrics suggest that he's not Jokic quite, but he's like the second best player in the league.
I love the young, fast team. And I love it because if you're good right now, imagine how you're going to be in 5 years. You know, that's why where the Heat are at right now, led by an aging, still pretty great, but an aging Jimmy Butler. I don't know, where are they in 5 years, you know?
Well, you saw over the weekend the New Orleans Pelicans were making fun of Jimmy Butler because he said when they fought last time, he said, we're the better team and we're going to beat them up in Miami. We're going to beat them in Miami. And then they lose at home by 20. And his words don't mean anything. He's always going to say, we're the best. And the Pelicans, they've got a very good social media account. They went after Stephen A. Smith in a way that was funny, and they just put up, we're the better team.
You can't hold Jimmy Butler accountable. And no one really does. That's why he gets away with saying these things. It's like chasing down DJ Khaled and asking him, wait a second, I would like to push back a little bit on the notion that we'd the best.
Well, but it's the whole Heat culture thing. That ridiculous saying they have where we're the best, we're the most determined, we're the strongest.
That's not how it goes.
Okay, well, whatever it is, it works great when you're winning.
Can you keep going?
When you're dominating.
Keep going, though.
Let's see.
Okay.
It's fair what you're saying, that we don't have to like the saying. I still want our group to find for me something, especially as we head into these playoffs, that electric shocks people who say the word culture. That something that because I don't want to annoy the audience any more than we already annoy the audience with all of this.
Okay, but the Heat has owned that, and they put a capital letter on the C. And all I'm saying is Heat culture, and there's a big long phrase for all the things they're the best at. It's great when you're dominating, when you have the big three. When you're struggling to avoid the play-in tournament, it doesn't sound quite as useful.
Do you want to give us the saying that as you think it is? The Miami Heat, according to Pat Riley, and he's used this before. He actually said this, I think, about the Knicks and the Lakers. But what's the saying?
Okay, best conditioned, hardest working, strongest, most diligent, most thoughtful. I don't know.
No, not thoughtful.
Scariest. I'm running out of adjectives here.
Most
I don't
uniforms.
know. Yeah, most uniforms would be perfect. Most full of shit. I don't know.
Wait a minute now.
I'm just kidding. It's
Get
just
him.
a joke.
I would say that embedded in that I believe word for word motto that Greg Cote rattled off is, wouldn't caring about the regular season fall in line with that? wouldn't sludging through
work smarter, not harder. Shit, actually, they say hardest working. Shit,
hardest working.
Wouldn't sludging through and hitting your stride when everyone else is bored with the season, like, wouldn't that be part of Heat culture?
We were talking earlier in the show about age, and I want to just show some pictures here to some people and get some reactions here. I'm going to begin with Jackie Chan at 70 years old. Jackie Chan did his own stunts for a long time. Jackie Chan was an amazing action star. Mike Ryan has claimed that Mission Impossible, the penultimate one, is the greatest action movie that we've seen in many, many years. Monkey Man is now considered something that is coming in April with Jordan Peele at the helm, and it's said to be one of the great action movies. How do we feel about how Jackie Chan looks right there at 70? 70 years old. It's how he should look. It's how a 70-year-old would look.
Yeah, it looks good.
You always got to avoid overhead lighting. That's that is a speaking engagement, stage lit. That is not a winning proposition.
He looks like Woody Allen.
Okay, that's not what Jackie Chan was going for at 70. When Roy says that he looks good, though, at 70, he doesn't look like a couple of other people I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you right now the 60-year-old Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz has been taking very good care of himself.
That's crazy.
That's Ozempic right there.
Ozempic.
He's diabetic.
Ozempic? You think Ozempic gives you a six-pack?
How is that man 60? For crying out
Well,
loud.
I'm about to show
if
you
he's
one.
diabetic, then possibly.
What does he do now?
I mean, he still makes
He
music.
still makes music, and he
still
models,
he
and
performs.
he's got a bunch
Hollywood
of
star
endorsement
now,
deals.
right?
He's also
and very clearly crunches.
He's also very smart about fashion and design. Like his taste is very strong.
Wow.
But let me show you Ernie Hudson from the original Ghostbusters at 78 years old, because this one floored me.
What?
I cannot believe that he looks younger than Paul Rudd, standing next to Paul Rudd, and in fact, the entire cast of Frozen.
I mean, it's not really fair because, as you know, black don't crack.
Well, but he's 78.
That's
It's supposed to
78,
crack
dude.
at 78.
No,
It's
no.
supposed to crack at 78.
He looks just
The
as
foundation
good
is
as
still
he-
strong.
He
His
looks
body.
just as good.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard
those
Show.
arms.
Does black start to crack after 75? But Ernie Hudson, it's a bit staggering.
He looks great.
That's
To be 80.
Yeah.
He's 2 years younger than my father.
I will say, I think he has hair coloring. Said the guy who has hair coloring as he speaks.
He's
Salt and pepper, though.
He's 10 years older than my dad.
Okay. I could take him in a 60-yard race.
No, you couldn't.
I mean, he looks better now than he did in Oz.
Greg has told me that he has begun training for his 6-minute mile.
Yeah. I'm starting incrementally. I don't want to get carried away. I just, a couple of days, not yesterday, I took the day off, but the day before yesterday, I ran 60 feet in
There you
less
go.
than 10 seconds. So I was pretty proud of that.
Every journey starts with one step,
we're
Greg.
working our way up.
He should be proud.
Yeah.
Your
thank you.
average per 60 feet might get you there.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I haven't done the math.
20 yards. You ran 20 yards.
Yeah.
But in how long?
Under 10 seconds.
So if you project that,
I wasn't
he
even
has a
huffing.
shot, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
And that was first day.
Right. I was eating a Dove bar while doing it, like Bill Parcells on a treadmill.
And yesterday was a rest day, which is all premier athletes. They sometimes forget how crucial the rest day is to the body.
Rest day really makes the
It's
difference.
all figured out. It's a plan.
Greg Cote just made a really great reference that he and I have been making for many years, but he kind of got the order of some of the words wrong,
Did
so
I?
some people might not have understood what he was saying, which is that when Bill Parcells was the champion leader of the Dolphins, somebody did catch him walking on a treadmill eating a Dove bar.
Love it. That's multitasking.
That's a thing that actually happened. I want to play for everybody here some sound. Speaking of action movies, Mike and I vigorously disagree on the latest incarnation of Roadhouse. It was not very good, but Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal have been making the rounds as
It's a soft. It's like a J.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal. I think Jake Gyllenhaal decided to do this only because he wanted to get fit and go to tropical places. This was not done in Key West. It was meant to look like it was done in Key West, but it was not done in Key West.
That didn't look like Lower Metacumby to you? That looked like Lower Metacumby to me.
That was either the Dominican or Guatemala. I couldn't tell, and I haven't looked it up. But Jake Gyllenhaal got incredibly
How'd you
fit.
piece together Guatemala? How'd you piece this together? Did you hear that?
It just looked like
Those
it.
places have topography. This was the Keys, dude. This was the Middle Keys. That was Lower Metacumby.
No, some of it was in the Keys. I do not believe that entire movie was in Key West. There's
know
no
Guatemala
way.
Are you
so
Guatemalan
well.
cartographer? Like,
No
how do you
way.
know?
No, it's just that it wasn't the Keys, and it looked to me like some places that I've seen before. That's all. It looked to me, it looked a little bit familiar, but I'm guessing. I haven't looked it up, so I may have it wrong. Like I got it wrong that there were saltwater crocodiles in the Keys. I did not know about that, and I asked Ron McGill about it, and he says they never attack anybody, though. But regardless, if I'm looking for suspension of disbelief in the movies, that's not the one that I'm going to look at. Because I'll give you this, the last 30 minutes were entertaining. If you enjoy seeing people's faces knocked off of tables and boats flying into the sky. The movie was profoundly stupid, but we have some audio of Conor McGregor, and a lot of people are accusing him of drug use. Conor McGregor's life. I'm not talking about steroid use.
Dan was right. Holy bleep. Dan was right. A large chunk of the film was filmed in the Dominican Republic. Actually, nope, that was 1984. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
So still Googling.
Okay, you're going to keep looking it up for me. In the meantime, they are trying to the computer has crashed here, so we'll get to the sound in a second from over the weekend. But I did wonder what Gyllenhaal was thinking as he sat next to a McGregor who looked like he was in a stupor.
Over laughing is the way I saw it. He's just basically like uncomfortable. You can tell he feels weird. We're showing the B-roll of it here, but we can't do the audio yet. It's uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah, odd couple.
In speed reading here, it looks like the 2024 remake was also filmed primarily in the Dominican Republic. So there you go.
You guys love to make fun of me.
Well, no, you said Guatemala.
Okay, but I'm okay. Sorry. You said
different countries.
You said I was wrong. The computer audio crashed, so I will get that up and running. We will get that up and running. I'm not going to go into a back room and move some wires around. We'll get that up and running, and we will play that Conor McGregor sound for you in a moment. But Greg Cote, for some reason, felt the need during this break to say to me, the Steelers are going to be really good.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is really falling in love with them having two quarterbacks who aren't Kenny Pickett, who they've seen had success before. And I just keep thinking that they were available cheap for a reason. Like, it doesn't mean that the rest of the league can't be wrong on some of this. But, I mean, the last version of Russell Wilson that you saw was a very constipated offense. But I think most people have the opinion that you have, which is those quarterbacks are going to be better. How do you screw that up? And I present to you Arthur Smith.
That's fair. I'm not going to defend that club, but Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson, I thought was okay last year. 2 years ago, he was awful. Last year, I thought it was a little bit of a comeback year for him. And Justin Fields, I think, is a great contrast. I think the two of them, I can almost envision a two-quarterback system that might actually work, where you play both guys, where both guys might commonly get 10, 15 passes a game because you're going to play them depending on series and score and opponent. I think they're going to get a lot out of both guys this season, and I think it's an interesting mix. And the other thing is, Russell Wilson came cheap only because he was willing to because of all the money still being paid by Denver. And Justin Fields reportedly had 4 other teams interested in him, but he was lobbying hard behind the scenes to get to Pittsburgh.
But he was had cheap. I understand he had other opportunities. He was had cheap only because the other opportunities weren't a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
for Chicago. Like if somebody was offering a second-round pick, he would not be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like my guess is that all other things being close to equal, they sent him where it is that he wanted to go. And if I told you right now, I don't know the answer to the question I'm asking, but if I told you that Russell Wilson wasn't being paid by the Broncos, was just a total free agent, what do you think he's getting where? You think he's getting a lot of money? You believe that after what he's done the last couple of seasons, that that's a big contract that he's getting?
I think I could be wrong. I think he's getting a second-tier Geno Smith type contract. He's not 50, he's not $40 million a year, but I think he's a guy who's getting a $30 million a year deal.
Sean, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I understand that some shine came off the bloom when the Dolphins were scoring 70 off them. But Sean Payton is supposed to know quarterbacks, correct? And they're paying him a ton of money to know quarterbacks. And they made a giant investment in order for him to know quarterbacks. And he got there and promptly ran him out of town. Mm-hmm. Very quickly, the reports were coming out where you're hearing sources say Sean Payton keeps telling Russell Wilson, hey, stop with the politics stuff and the kissing of babies and concentrate on playing quarterback. He didn't like him from the beginning. Right. And when I give a quarterback a lot of money and then I give a coach a lot of money to be a quarterback trainer, and that coach comes in and immediately runs off the quarterback in a way that makes us all gasp because we can't believe how quickly Denver realized its mistake. You're telling me that you know more about Russell Wilson and his prospects than Sean Payton does. Or you feel better about his prospects than Sean Payton does. Because if he could do what you think he could do in Pittsburgh, my guess is that Sean Payton would have had him doing it in Denver.
When I say I like the combination of those two, it's because in Russell Wilson, you have a guy who's not chronologically over the hill yet. He should have a few more prime seasons, and I think he might. And he's got the proverbial chip on his shoulder yet still to prove that he ain't done yet. And Justin Fields is the opposite. He's the guy who one team gave up on, maybe prematurely, but probably only because they had the top pick and a very good guy to get. So they're discarding Justin Fields, who I think is better than being discarded at his age with his remaining potential. I think as a mix, I think it's a good combination.
If I'm reading between the lines here, what my dad's saying, it sounds like you're saying that the Steelers' quarterback room is the hungriest room in the league.
Yeah, it could be. It could very well be because you have two guys who both think they should start.
Because most quarterbacks are fed well. Most quarterbacks, you don't look at them and you man, this guy really needs to prove something, or this guy. Most quarterbacks are paid the most. You're looking at a room right here where these guys both have to work. I'm half kidding with the hungry analogy, but I do think that both of these guys have a lot to prove.
Right, they do, and motivation matters. Right, they do still both have a lot to prove for very different reasons at different points in their career. I think the mix is going to be great. The motivation is going to be great. I haven't investigated the rest of the team. They always have a decent running game. They always have a decent defense. They could use a wide receiver in the draft, but I just think they're a team on the rise, and I think the quarterback room is one of the most interesting in the league.
I am profoundly sad right now because what just happened to our show, we're headed to 20 years doing this, and for, I'm going to say 19 and a half of those years, a lot to prove, motivation, hunger, and team on the rise thrown together.
Yeah.
Would have made me vomit all over your face.
But you see what he's saying here.
Yeah.
Who's the least hungry quarterback room?
A lot to prove, motivation, hunger, team on the rise.
You also said Sean Payton knows quarterbacks, and his extent of knowing quarterbacks is he had Drew Brees, and then he didn't, and he retired.
Yeah.
And then he came back. But he won one Super Bowl with Drew Brees, one of the greater quarterbacks in NFL history.
I understand that viewpoint. I would also say to you that the reason that he was hired at that amount of money and no one had an objection to being him being hired as a free agent for that amount of money is because everyone listening to this says that guy is good at making quarterbacks better.
I think you could argue he did in Denver. Russell Wilson did have a better year by the standard that he had set there earlier, and it was because schematically you could see Sean Payton's influence. Now, whether that is Russell Wilson's inability to want to push the ball further downfield like he did earlier in his career, or whether that was coached out of him, I don't know if we'll ever get a sincere answer, especially when you consider Russell Wilson as a part of this data. But you like the fit in Pittsburgh in that they've never had much. And if it comes to hiding a quarterback, not unlike Sean Payton did in Denver, why not hide that quarterback? Russell Wilson seems to be a perfectly fine quarterback to hide.
The problem with what you guys are saying is I believe that all of the analysis of this stems from the place I'm about to state. Because if I gave these two quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, to most of the teams in the league, I think it would be a lukewarm enthusiasm for that situation. But this isn't about the quarterbacks they signed. This is about the quarterbacks who were in that room that all of us know couldn't play. All of us saw enough of all three of them to say those guys aren't good enough, so clearly anybody would be better whose name I've heard.
Really unprofessional stuff surrounding Kenny Pickett. That's my opinion surrounding the not wanting to dress out, not wanting receiving the news that they were bringing Russell Wilson in poorly. Just like, who are you? What have you accomplished in the pros?
It's weird that he would prefer to go to back up Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia than to back up Russell Wilson, but it would suggest that he's fed up with everything there. Like to me, that's harder to get on the field when you've got a young Jalen Hurts who just signed for giant money.
Has anyone told him who the hell do you think you are?
Right.
Have they tried that? Because who the hell does Kenny Pickett think he is?
Well, you say this, and I would say a star in Pittsburgh because of what he did in college. That's who he thinks he is. He thinks he's an exceptional.
No, I don't doubt that he thinks he's someone.
And he's wrong.
But has someone grabbed him by the shoulders and told him you ain't shit yet?
Really? Just like that?
Well, it's just because in the pros he's not.
No.
I don't understand. This could very well be like he's playing his pro games in the same building that he was an exceptional collegiate athlete, but who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett you can imagine as a career backup. You can imagine that he's already peaked and he's going to hang around.
But good career backups are good teammate guys.
Yeah, that's true.
And he doesn't appear to be that right now.
Whereas with Justin Fields, he's maybe a backup right now, but he's not. Justin Fields has talent. He's like a Jalen Hurts Jr., in my opinion.
They're also incentivized for him to not see the field because it's a conditional draft pick, and if he gets more than half the snaps, I believe it turns into a fourth, which is still pretty good. Like if Justin Fields is getting half your snaps and you're hanging around the way that Mike Tomlin usually does, I really can't spot much of a difference between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields from a production standpoint.
Can we please address what it is that you're asking there? Because I do think it's a great question.
Who's the hungriest quarterback?
No, that's a terrible question.
Oh.
Who the hell do you think you are? It's just a great question to ask somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Who the hell do you think you are? I am.
That's right.
I think Kenny Pickett would what would you do if you come up all indignant, right? Because it's a great question to ask somebody. You're filled with gall, right? It's a great question. Who the hell do you think you are? And what if Kenny Pickett looked at you and said, Gardner Minshew? I think I'm Gardner Minshew.
Wow, that would be some self-awareness there that I'm begging to see out of Kenny Pickett. No, I think he flips his hair and he says, I'm Kenny Pickett. I'm the guy that changed the rules in the ACC.
Kenny bleeping Pickett, who I changed the rules in the ACC because I fake slid during a bowl game.
Terrible rule. This is the most inconsistently called rule. Just go back to, all right, Kenny Pickett, you got one on us. Only one person had got one on us.
Who the hell do you think you are? It feels good. Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo. Oh, I put you in charge of the polls again. Does it feel good to say to somebody, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah. Who the hell do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? I am.
I feel like that's a rhetorical question. Like you say that almost as a pejorative, and you really don't expect an answer. You're just making a claim.
That right there from bowling.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Is magical and is I'm him before I'm him and better done.
Who do you think you are? I am.
That's Pete Weber. Greg Cote started writing bowling at the Miami Herald.
Did.
Isn't that how you started at the Miami Herald, writing bowling?
I remember Pete Weber's father, Dick Weber, back in the glory days of bowling when
Big Dick Weber.
Yeah, where Earl Anthony and Pete Roth, what was his Roth's name? The Roth guy.
We don't know. You're asking us?
What
Really?
a great bowler back in the 70s. Yeah.
Earl Anthony and them boys.
I know Don Carter.
Yeah. Don
and
Carter
Paula,
was it?
Paula
Don
Carter, too.
Don and Paula Carter. Paula Sperber Carter. I knew all those people, man. That was my first job at the Herald, writing a Broward bowling column.
What a weird time that must be.
Electric beat.
It really was. I was like 17 years old. I used to sneak in names of my friends among the bowling agate.
What?
Yeah.
I love that.
Who do you think you are?
It's a
Nobody wrote about Dade?
Dick Evans did.
Oh, okay.
A Herald legend, Dick Evans.
So many Dicks around bowling back then.
Younger brother of Luther Evans, the Herald horse riding.
I was going to ask.
Nepotism.
I thought it
60s.
sounded familiar.
Those are the days, man. Yeah, Edwin Pope. We can get Edwin on the phone.
I don't think
those
were the days. I don't think those were the days.
He would be able to do that.
They were days, no doubt.
The
but
newspaper was king back then, and Luther Evans was covering the king of sports.
Miami Herald. He just admitted a journalistic crime that'll get you fired, making up names in the paper.
At 17, I did do that a couple of times.